Now it's time to move on to another eminent personality that we have with us on stage, Padma Bhushan Shri Rahul Kumar Bajaj. He is the leading light of Indian industry and the chairman of Bajaj Group. He is also a member of Rajya Sabha. We are privileged to have him as the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Grant Medical Foundation. It is our proud privilege to invite him to share a few words of wisdom with this august gathering.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm delighted to be here this evening. And after listening to Parvez and Bomi, I cannot say anything meaningful to all of you, so I'll speak a couple of things in generalities. But I would like to mention that prior to this very, very important event, Prachee, for quite some time, had decided, and very, very appropriately and correctly, to have esteemed Dr. Farooq Udwari as our chief guest. Thank you very much, Farooq, for coming all the way from Mumbai. It's not easy, even at my age, but I'm a very young man, but he's older than me and he's younger than I am. For reasons I don't know, Prachee also invited me here to be here and to also speak, and I told her I'll be delighted to be here, but I would prefer not to speak. But then here I am. You can't fight Prachee and you can't fight Parvez. My connections with Ruby Hall go back many, many years. And also, more intimately, my connections with the ICU, Prachee's ICU, came up during the last few years, especially when my wife, Rupa, used to be from time to time admitted in the ICU, and I don't think she could have received better care than what she did receive anywhere else. So thank you, Prachee. I know very little about hospitals, but I'll just make hospitals, and especially hospitals run by an NGO, or not-for-profit organization. And both these points are obvious, and I've made them probably before. The first point is that to be a world-class hospital and a world-class ICU, which you've heard from Parvez and Bomi, we appear to be. I'm not so sure about some of the points at the bottom about which my friend Bomi mentioned. We may be top class, but to say that nobody else has it, for equipment, for certain things, yes, for latest technology, maybe, but best patient care is a matter of debate. So I'm a little bit questioning him on that, and I'll talk to him later on about that. But it looks a little show-off also, but otherwise he made a great presentation. So obviously to make a great hospital and a great ICU, you need obviously three things: equipment, top skilled doctors, and top support staff in terms of nursing staff, other staff who have to be committed, dedicated, and with empathy for the patients, about which also reference was made. And I think it's these three things and a combination of these three things which has made Ruby Hall and its ICU, apart from the cardiology department and the cardiac surgery department and the cancer department, apart from all these, really amongst the best in the country. The other point I want to make, and I've made it before, I don't know about this audience or otherwise, is we are a not-for-profit foundation, organization, which Grant Medical Foundation, which runs, as you know, Ruby Hall Clinic. But a not-for-profit, some people get confused, I think. A not-for-profit organization, whatever it is, a college, university, a hospital, as in our case, does not mean it should not have a surplus. How will it carry on? You can't keep begging for donations. So you must have a surplus. The only difference between an NGO, which is not for profit, and any other organization which may be very good. In the medical profession, it is Apollo, for example, which is a corporate organization for profit. Nothing wrong with that. But the difference is their profits go to their shareholders. Our profits are entirely plowed back for the functioning, the working and expansion of Ruby Hall, because we don't have shareholders. We have only trustees, and they are the independent non-executive trustees are all obviously honorary trustees. I know of 3 hospitals, and I don't have as much experience as many of the medical fraternities sitting here will have, in the Mumbai-Pune area, which are NGOs, which are not-for-profit, which run very well, which take care, we heard some figures, of their weaker sections of society patients, whether they are given free treatment or a highly subsidized treatment. And with all that, they must create a surplus. And I know of, I don't know the figures, that of course, breech candy is what it is, in my view, due to maybe various factors. I don't want to exaggerate, but Farooq Udwaria, who's here with us, according to me, he has given his life to that institution. He gives his life to every patient he sees, and I think breech candy is what it is, essentially due to, may I call you my friend Farooq, Dr. Udwaria, who's obviously, as the invitation says, the father of ICUs in India. Ruby Hall is a very good example of this, not only because of what it has achieved, and it has many more miles to go. You can never be satisfied with what you have achieved, otherwise you will go down. Either you have to keep going up, you can't plateau, or you keep going down. And the proof of the pudding is what you were shown by Pervez. It can't be in a short period of time, you can't get a full picture, but it's a very major expansion program. He said 2 to 3 years, I would say 3 years, and maybe, difficult things are difficult sometimes in India. You don't get this permission, you don't get this permission. So I would say rather it could be nearer to 3 years. It may exceed 3 years, not in 2 years. 2 years is very ambitious, Pervez. And it requires 200 crores. Now, where will this 200 crores come from? It doesn't drop from heaven. We are not government assisted in any way whatsoever. So it essentially will come from its surplus. Some of it from donations, and hopefully, Bhomi, please note, I'm in an organization like this, I'm absolutely personally against borrowing and taking debt. Until now, I don't know, at least since I've been chairman, I don't think we have taken any debt. We don't have any debt on the books. But then you have to, we can't be like some other large corporates. You take debt, but you don't repay that. So you have to repay the debt, the principal amount, with interest thereon. So that's what Ruby has achieved. And I'm sure there are other hospitals like that. But I think Ruby is one of the very, very fine examples of that. Today, this evening is Prachee's evening as far as I'm concerned. Of course, Ruby, you would not have easily a very top-class ICU without Ruby being top-class. But this is the evening for celebrating the Silver Jubilee of the Ruby ICU, and the team makes everything. No leader can do everything by himself. But just as however good a team, without a leader, it doesn't have proper guidance, it doesn't have proper direction. And while Farooq, as I said, is the father of ICUs in India, and I know there are hundreds of ICUs in India. Maybe I'm a little partial, a little subjective, but I think it will be very difficult to find a better chief, a better head of ICU than Prachee. Thank you for listening to me.